Good morning. Welcome to the first open forum for our presidential candidates for Sandburg College. Most of you in the room already know me, but for the purposes of the live stream, my name is Connie Thurman, and I am the Dean of Institutional Effectiveness and Human Resources here at Sandburg College. I'll share just a little bit about the process of the open forum. The purpose is for our candidate to share their vita and the reason why they want to be the president at Sandburg College. And then afterward, there will be time for questions. And we will wrap at the end of the hour. We've got a very busy agenda today. So it is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Seamus Reilly. Dr. Reilly, the floor is yours.
All right, very much. Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everybody. Is this thing on? Can you hear me okay? All right, perfect. I'm going to put my water down. Well, if I move around, will I freak you out at the back? Can you follow a spot? Okay, all right. Let's cut this over here. Well, I am very happy to be here, and thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come and meet with me. I'll talk a little bit about myself, but really what I want to do is I want to have a conversation about Sandburg, and I want to have a conversation with you and get your input and questions and feedback. So I'll try to match what my feelings about the college are. I'll give you some inkling of what that is. So despite the cunning Midwest accent, I am actually, in fact, from Ireland, the real place, the green place, and I moved out of Ireland in 1988. I moved from Dublin, just grew up north of Dublin, to Madrid, Spain. And then I lived there for 2 years, and then I moved from Madrid, Spain to Peoria, Illinois. I was part of a psychological experiment on culture shock, and they wanted to see how I would do. So I loved Peoria. I absolutely adored it. My wife's from there. Her dad was a professor at Bradley, and I taught at ICC, Illinois Central College, taught composition. And then I worked at Bradley University. I taught composition and literature there. And for 1 year was a replacement for Kevin Stein. I don't know if you guys know who Kevin Stein is. He was the Illinois Poet Laureate for a number of years. In 92, everybody was saying, you know the good thing you should do? You really should go get a doctorate. Because there will be loads of jobs. And they lied. There were no jobs. When I finished in 97, it was the worst dive the English job market had ever taken. It was just one of those things. So I stayed on at the University of Illinois. I ran a professional business and technical writing program. And then I worked as a year as a postdoc, and then got offered 2 jobs in 1 week. After having not gotten offered any jobs in 4 years, I got offered 2 jobs in 1 week. One job was at Bradley University, and the other job was at Parkland College. And the dean at Bradley screamed at me when I told her that I was not taking the job at Bradley University. And but I had lost my heart to community colleges. And when I went to visit Parkland, I just fell in love with everything about community colleges. And I've been at Parkland ever since. Started as a faculty member in English, became involved in administration as early as, I think, 2004-05 as International Ed Director for the college. Then volunteered to become chair of Fine and Applied Arts. And 2008 was appointed to be Vice President of Institutional Advancement. Ran a variety of different areas of the college. It's changed over the years. I've done lots of different things. Mostly my job involves working with external components, so the external entities that work with the college, as well as the internal entities that work externally. So I do business training, community education, institutional accountability and research, grants and contracts, marketing, and public relations. I'm also the government legislative affairs officer. I'm the senior international officer, and I sit on all the external boards. So I sit on the economic development corporations and metropolitan intergovernmental councils, et cetera, all of those different things. So I love what I do. I love the community college. I love working in here, and I want to work at Sandburg College because I believe in the work that you do and that you have committed to. And I'm excited about the opportunity to come and share some of the things that I've learned from you, and build something else greater. improve, change, be transformative. So just the same way as a faculty member, I wanted to help students understand how they could transform their lives and be a positive influence on helping them to grow and develop. Community college as a whole has that responsibility for our whole country, for our regions, individual community college districts that we serve. Feedback. I am well aware of Illinois. I have lived in Illinois now longer than I have lived any place else in the world. I understand economic downturn. You remember I left Ireland in 1988. And the reason I left Ireland in 1988, for those of you who are not economics majors, is because I think the unemployment in Ireland for people my age was something in around about 48%. Every single human being I knew left Ireland, and some of them, like me, never went back. But things change, and I think there are huge opportunities in this community, in this area. I believe in rural America. I believe in the values that are in these communities. I believe in the power of community colleges to transform lives. I believe Sandburg is already one of those places. And I would be excited about coming here and helping you all to continue to build and improve your community and be a transformative force for the region. That's what I believe. It's not a spiel. I didn't write it down. It's what's inside in my heart and head. So, that being said, I'm going to give you as much time as you want. If you want more information about me, Vita-wise, fine. But let's have a conversation about what we can do together to make Carl Sandburg the best community college that it can be. Who's first? Just going to get water. I'll be right back. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Misty. If you have any questions, please, we have a mic. We have 2 microphones on both sides of the room.
You're going to get a workout, Brittany, running around here.
Misty Lyon, I am the Dean of Student Success here at Carl Sandburg College.
Yep.
Sandburg is somewhat unique in that we employ several full and part-time academic advisors to assist students to acclimate to college, create academic plans, register for courses, advocate for student services, transfer to their educational, whether they're going to a college or university, and just really generally kind of navigate the college environment.
Mm-hmm.
How does Sandburg's academic advising model compare to your current or previous institutions, and what is your philosophy on academic advising?
Well, I think where the institution I'm at is moving in this direction in looking at that advising model. I'm a big fan of coach, the word coach, and I know that that's implicit in the academic sort of advising model that you're working with. What are the ways in which we can be a resource and a support? Somebody asked me one time, who's responsible for getting a student successfully through the community college? And the answer to that question is everybody. Because the first day the student arrives on campus, the first person they interact with may be the difference in whether they stay or go. The financial aid person for whom the student is reliant on to help them navigate the most difficult part, in some cases, of their education, that might be the most important person. The person who smiles at him, who's part of the custodial staff, might be a reason why that student stays. The main piece of it is this ongoing interaction and connection with the students on a regular basis, as opposed to the sort of like, you know, when you're sick, I'll go to the doctor if I'm sick, right? Which is kind of an old model of sort of the advising. I'll go once a year, whether I'm sick or not, right? You know, I'll do absolutely nothing else to help my health the rest of the year, right? So transforming that, changing it so that what are ways in which we are being positive forces and support for students throughout. I have a little saying I say where I think the most important person in a person's life is the person who at some point in your lives said to you, I believe in you. I see something in you. And usually it's not a family member. In fact, it often can't be a family member. But that objective trust that somebody displays or shows. And I always say that when I was a teacher, because it happened to me. I had a wonderful mentor at University College Dublin who I was petrified. First generation student. My dad left school when he was 12. My mom left school when she was 15. First paper back. Oh my gosh, I'm going to flunk out. I'm going to fail. And so I go to this guy who is like, he's gone now, but he was a living institution. He was the leader of the Jesuit church in Ireland. And I said, what am I going to do? You know, didn't call Jesuits father. They took real offense if he did. So, Dr. Gallagher, what am I going to do? And he looked at me, he said, you will graduate with a bachelor degree honors, and you will do a master's degree here. That was my first 3 weeks in school. I didn't think I was going to make it to Christmas, right? Okay, so that support, that ongoing care for students, and meeting students where they're at, right? You know, I mean, 90% of the problems students face are often external forces and things they can't control. So being that voice, being that ear for students, I think it's everybody's job and responsibility. And I applaud the work that Sandburg's doing. It's one of the things that's most attractive about the institution is you are fully engaged in a student success mission, which is admirable. Yes? Get you a microphone. Tad, is this working okay? Because I feel like I'm going in and out. Okay, all right, so.
Hello, my name is Margie Clay. I'm an office assistant for Humanities, Social Sciences.
Okay, hi.
And I want to know what your goals would be for our college, what you foresee in 5 years or 10 years from now.
Well, I mean, I think the college is in a good position from a financial point of view, despite the best efforts of the state of Illinois, and so I think you guys are in a good position. I think, you know, once you have weathered the economic storm, you want to sort of set your sails and you want to try to see what you can accomplish. And clearly the student success model, because as good as the college is, you can always do better in terms of retention and persistence, and that clearly has to be a goal for the college. I think the college is going to be crucial in engagement with the larger community. What are the ways in which Carl Sandburg can be a leader for the community in the growth and regeneration of the region? I think you have to address the fact that while, you know, Carl Sandburg has an excellent transfer record, does an excellent job in facilitating students who are transfer, and that's true for many community colleges. I think there's a lot of work to be done everywhere, but maybe at Carl Sandburg too, in sort of embracing the ways in which we can support the other industries and the career and technical education side. And I'll say further that my philosophy in community college education is in the last 20 years, we've become rather focused on the college age student, the 18 to 21. Well, what attracted me to community colleges was that there weren't 18 to 21-year-olds in there all the time, that there were older students in there, and I learned a lot from them, and the younger students learned a lot from them, and it meant that a conversation, for example, that I was having around Martin Luther King's letter to Birmingham jail, or Tim O'Brien, the things they carried about Vietnam, when I had students in the classroom who remembered that, or who had been in Vietnam, that was a much more interesting and a much more nuanced conversation. But what about the population of folks who are post-college, who have maybe no college experience, maybe some, but maybe want to come back and learn a new skill? What about the incumbent workers who are in a position where they think, I'd like to do something else, but I'm not quite sure what the next step is? I think community colleges need to be there for those folks as well who are in the workforce, because in order for the workforce to grow, then we need to make sure we are doing the ongoing education. My dissertation, one of my dissertation faculty on my committee retired from the University of Illinois about 10 years ago, and he's now a full-time student at Parkland College. He's a sculptor. And so I saw him a couple of years ago, and I said, hey, Peter, how's it going? And he goes, good. And I asked him some question about English critical theory, because that was his specialty. And he goes, you still read that stuff? I'm like, Peter, you were the leader. And he goes, he said, I'm just chipping rock now. It transformed him physically. Like he's 75 odd, and now he put on about 20 pounds of muscle. But he is as passionate about sculpting as he was about anything else. And it's a whole new lease on life. And I think Carl Sandburg needs to be that for people as well, a way for them to continue to learn. Because if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. There's no, if you ever try to get fit, you get fit, hit your goal, you go, yes, I'm here. Now I will sit for 6 weeks and do nothing. Straight back where you started, right? So, yeah, does that get your question? All right, very good. Yes. Oh, sorry, you got to get the weapon.
Good morning.
Good
I'm
morning.
Autumn Scott. I'm the Director of TRIO Student Support Services.
Excellent, very good. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too. So Sandburg hosts 3 federal TRIO programs,
Yep.
SSS, Upward Bound, and Upward Bound Math Science. So based on your experience, what is the importance of TRIO, and what could the institution do to support those programs?
Well, the importance of TRIO, of course, is that those students who are most at risk and who need the most help, and the wraparound services that they provide, frankly, mimic the other best practices that I think we want to go for in advising. My own experience of TRIO students is, if you go by the demographic numbers in our college, and probably the same in your college, almost everybody really should qualify, right? And so the question is, how do we replicate the best practices which you're doing on the advising side? But then also, how do you make sure those TRIO students are not just TRIO students, but that they're students, and that they are fully embedded in the institution and built, interwoven with everything that's going on. So the TRIO support becomes best student practice, but the best student practice is a foundation of student success. Because I don't want the TRIO students just to be, making it. I want them to be super, right? I want them to be super successful, because in many ways they're getting a huge amount of support. And we want to make sure that they realize their potential. I was a mean student. I mean, I had no money. No, I had less than no money going to college. I was the eldest of 7. The financial part of it, I was explaining this to somebody the other day. They were talking about, like, well, what's wrong with people? You have relatives like this? What's wrong with people today? Why isn't it they just don't take advantage of all of these things? Like, tuition and fees are paid for. Why aren't they successful? Dude, my tuition and fees were paid for. I never thought about tuition and fees. That wasn't even a bill. I didn't even know what the cost was. I didn't care. But I had £25 a week sometimes going to college. My rent was $24. There was an economic reality, which was I wasn't sure where I was or how I was going to eat. So I hitchhiked up to school. So talking to me about, like, don't you feel great that you got your tuition and fees paid for? You should be the most successful student. I'm like, yeah, but I haven't eaten today, and I may not eat tomorrow, and I don't have £2 to take the bus home. Tuition and fees isn't the issue, right? So making sure that we have a complete understanding of all of the things that students are dealing with. And I think that's certainly TRIO is a part of it, and sort of embedding that in the whole institution and the student success model.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Chris Shaw. I'm a financial aid specialist and the coordinator of veterans and military personnel on campus.
Thank you, very good.
And so I was given these questions to ask by my director. She's not here. I told her I like to fly under the radar, not speak, but here we go.
Okay.
We find more and more families are not prepared to pay for college expenses, even though the low cost of community college, is available. What do you see as the role for the community colleges in making college more affordable and reducing the burden of student debt, loan debt? Sorry.
Yeah, it's I was having this conversation with somebody else the other day about this. Like, we are very low cost compared to other types of education, but almost nobody brings in anything or can bring anything to the table. And frankly, that's largely a larger economic reality, right? The savings in the United States is the lowest it's been probably in 75 years. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. Almost nobody has enough. What's the model? 6 months of your salary in savings. Hands up, all those who have that. I'm not going to ask you to put your hands up, right? The reality is that's a very hard piece. And while there were some sort of fledgling plans like the Illinois-funded savings plan, most people haven't adequately prepared for that. I think one of the key pieces is education. I got 4 kids, right? 2 of them graduated. All 4 of them, 3 of them graduated from Parkland. 2 of them graduated college. One of he's on the way. He'll get there. He's going to make it. No, I'm joking. He will make it. And my youngest starts at Parkland to play soccer and study in the fall. And there was a sort of a conscious education of my kids about college. Now, my oldest is 26. I was banned from talking about college in around about when she was 18. Because in the words of my wife and daughter, you know nothing about education, Dad. You're an idiot. No. And so I was saying, nobody will ever ask you where you got your bachelor's degree from. Nobody will ever ask you should take the most expedient and most effective, efficient, economic way. And it's very hard for people because education has become commodified. And so we think about education now the same way we think about somebody in the parking lot. If somebody pulls in beside us in a Lexus, we go, ooh, a Lexus. If somebody pulls in beside us in a Ford Fiesta, we go, oh, Ford Fiesta. Both people got to the college, both people got to the parking lot, both people will get home. And I kind of have that attitude about education. I'm all about excelling at education, being the best you can be, but I'm also all about the reality that we need to be economically responsible. Debt, student loan debt, is the single biggest debt load in this country, and it's unsustainable. I had very little debt coming out of college. My wife had some debt coming out of college because she went to study abroad to meet me in Ireland. And really, that's how she got the debt. She did a master's in Ireland, and that's where we met. We paid off our college debt, and we had worked nonstop since 1988, the day my daughter graduated from high school. So it's a huge issue. Making sure students aren't swindled by the loan piece, educating them before they sign anything, and encouraging ways and programs in which you can support them. Sandburg is way ahead. You have some excellent initiatives to help support the poorest of students to make it so they're not reliant on student debt. So that's very important to make sure students are aware of that. You have an excellent foundation making sure students are aware of that. You've got, you got the Knox Promise, and you're going to have another promise. I mean, you are embedded in your community and you support that piece. So education is key, and sort of coming up with ways in which we can encourage students to contribute something, because I'm a big believer in that if you don't contribute something to the overall cost of your education, that it doesn't really have an awful lot of value for you. It's the difference between getting a bike for Christmas that came out of thin air and saving up money to buy a bike. I mean, I think it makes a difference. So I think education is the key piece, and cultivating that information to people, parents and students. So, yeah. You got another question, I know. Sorry, I was long-winded on that one. I'm passionate about money.
The second question she wanted to ask was, we are currently participating in the dual credit experiment, which allows us to provide a federal Pell Grant to high school students enrolled in dual credit.
Yep.
What is your philosophy on dual credit, and how can we best serve dual credit students?
Well, I think you're doing an excellent job serving dual credit students, first of all. So the reality is dual credit is very important if it gets students a connection to going on to complete in college. That's part of the reason why we want to do it. We want to give them a leg up in like where I come from. So students who do dual credit in their high school, taught by their faculty, don't pay anything for the course. So my own son, took 14 hours of dual credit before he graduated high school. My daughters refused to do it. They persisted in AP. God bless them. Didn't, but it meant he graduated Parkland in 3 semesters. So that's a huge, in terms of the overall total cost, if you can reduce the cost of your college going 2 years, from 2 years to 3 semesters, that's a big win. If students don't come from dual credit into Carl Sandburg, there is a reality that you've just had 12 hours of credit that they got that you're not going to get payment for. And so you have to balance, well, what's the greater good? I mean, the greater good is we want more students going to college, and if this is important for them and they get into Knox or they get into ISU and they get into Bradley, God bless them. I wouldn't want to preclude somebody from doing that. I think the innovative and interesting things that you have going, because you're one of 44 schools in the country that are doing it, which is a Title IV supported in Abingdon Avon. And I think that's really, really, really good, because the reality is that we need more students who are getting access to the education. On the career technical education side, we have a lot of students who are really not looking at college as a destination. At sophomore, junior, we've developed some programming which allows them to bring, come on over to the community college in block scheduling from 8 till 12, and they take courses which they earn throughout their year, and then they finished on our semester, but then at the end of the year, then they're finishing with a credential. They may get a short-term certificate in automotive. Now, I'm not saying that every kid has to do automotive, but it's something a lot of them are interested in, and we're trying to broaden it so they get interested in it. It doesn't mean that's what they're going to do, but what it demonstrates is, hey, I went to college, I took a college class, I was successful, maybe I do belong here. And those students, I think, those are the students for whom dual credit can be a transformative, even more transformative experience. Because ultimately, in terms of our overall success, we want more of our students from the high school coming in, and we want more of them having some success early on. The difficulty with college for most first-generation students is it takes too long. It's too long. Honestly, I never would have made 16-week semesters. I mean, God bless you. I never would have done it. 16 weeks, that's forever. Like, I started October 1st, was done December 10th. That was my semester, my first trimester, I guess, if you call it over here. The second was January 15 to March 15, and the third was April 15 to May 8th. That's my kind of school. I mean, get it done quick. And I did a BA in 3 years, but I mean, it was a different structure. It was a very, very difficult school, but 50% of my class failed, so that was the payoff, right? So the trade-off, if you like. So does that answer? Yeah, and thank you for the work you do for veterans, which are the most dishonored and disgraced group in our education system in the state of Illinois. It's an absolute travesty.
Good morning. I'm James Hutchings. I'm the Associate Dean of Humanities and Fine Arts.
Yep.
Over the last 10 years, we've experienced approximately a 25% decrease in the number of full-time faculty members on campus. So as a twofold question, how would you support faculty as requirements are increasing and numbers are decreasing? And what is your definition of an efficient and effective faculty administration structure?
You know, I think the reality has been that everybody has suffered greatly in terms of the economic issues in the state. You're a relatively low number of faculty. I mean, your balance is between adjunct and full-time is probably typical of what is in the state. I would be supportive of growing those faculty positions in those areas which are growing. We've had an opposite effect where we had, say, for example, a department with 5 faculty and no students, which became a very difficult situation because there's nowhere for those faculty to go, and you don't want to put your faculty in that position. So the first piece of this is connected to the other piece of which we're all doing, which is student success and enrollment management. So what are we doing to maximize the enrollment and the penetration into our high school? What are you doing? Because I think you're connected with international stuff. What are we doing with international students to grow the population? And what are the opportunities for students who are coming from outside the district in either through partnership with Knox or partnership with other educational institutions? So that's one way. The simple answer is get more students, we develop more faculty, and we support it. I have worked deeply within the faculty administration structure, so I'm aware of what you speak. I think there becomes a tipping point where it becomes not efficient, and I think you have to be careful. So in other words, you give faculty release time to do various different things, and then before you know it, you're taking on a huge amount of work, and it's only a couple of hours or, release time, and then the balance is overwhelming. And so I think you have to be conscious and conscientious of it. On the other hand, I want faculty to be engaged in some of that administration, like on the activities and the work that you were doing. So I don't want to preclude faculty from being involved in that. But I think you have to be careful that it doesn't get out of control. We had a situation at Parkland, the study abroad coordinator, who I think Jody, who works for me. I mean, we cut her release time in half. From the previous occupant was getting 8 hours, and she went from actually more than half, 8 hours, so I think she gets 3 hours now. She's not doing any less work. In fact, she's redoubled her load in terms of activity and work that she's doing. But it's also a passion for her, and so I balance it out other ways. So I make sure that she gets to take opportunity of international travel professionally for her own professional development, and that's made a huge difference in her overall lifestyle. So she's content. For some people, it's not all about the money. It's a trade-off, right? So my trade-off was I'll send you to wherever opportunity comes up on the international travel side to support our ISIP programs, and I'll make sure you get to go it, and I'll support and encourage you in your development of other international programming, which has been like a newfound career for her, and so it's worked out. That get at it? Yeah, all right, thank you.
Probably don't need this. Good morning. My name is Rick Eddy. I'm the registrar and the Title IX coordinator here.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. It sounds like you've been involved with community colleges for roughly 20 years or so.
Yeah.
Just curious to see what you think the biggest change has been from community colleges, college students then to now, and what type of things we're doing to adjust to meet their needs and expectations.
Yep, the single biggest change has been external influence, particularly on the part of the federal and state government, particularly in part of the mandates from the federal government. So Title IX is a good example of that. On the accreditation or on the institutional accountability and research side, as you know very well, Connie, I think 55 reports go into ICCB. So the ways in which the external influences are demanding more and more on the community colleges and taking up more and more resources. So I am now spending time and money in institutional accountability and research for reports that our folks who are preparing them are convinced are never looked at, and that is incredibly frustrating to them because it interferes with the work they could be doing to support the student success mission. So instead of an accountability measure that may or may not be looked at. I think the changes and the potential changes on the federal level to the financial aid packages, particularly with the possibility of the Prosper Act, but investigations, I mean, that has become an incredibly complex part on the Title IX side for every single institution. It requires everybody in your area to be trained. It requires everybody here to be trained, every faculty member to be trained. It takes an incredible amount of time because you really have to take these investigations seriously. And I think it just has meant an awful lot more oversight and administration. Honestly, when I started at Parkland College in wow, when was that, 99? We had one vice president. We didn't have a division of student services. So we had a president, a vice president, and a CFO. That was it. But it was because the person felt like they could easily balance the student services, and there's no way that's true anymore. That has become way, way too complicated, and there's way too much risk involved for the institution if you don't take those things seriously. Is that the right answer? I'm not sure. That's my answer anyway. Yeah. The other biggest, the biggest change has been, frankly, the tuition. Like, you know, we never even thought about tuition. I mean, we went years and years and years and years without ever raising tuition at Parkland because everything balanced out, right? You didn't have to rely on tuition. Tuition wasn't 54% of your overall revenue for the college. But when pieces started disappearing off the table, that changed things. So, but there's been some positive things too, and the other big positive is that I think community colleges are highly regarded, maybe not by everybody, but certainly by most people, as being really excellent educational institutions, providing a real good level of access and support for our students. So that's been a positive. All right. Yes, sir. You're all teachers in here. I bet you I could hear you, but that's okay.
You should be able to hear me anyway, but
yeah.
I'm actually Robert Wolpert. I am a student tutor here at the Tutoring Center at Carl Sandburg. How do you see the academic support programs such as tutoring best supporting students in class learning?
I think this is, I will never forget sitting in, the grades don't match up in my mind. I was 9, so what grade was I in? 3rd, 4th. I was doing some math thing, and I was sitting beside Colin Farrell, and Colin was really good at math. And the teacher had explained something, and I'm doing it, going absolutely nowhere. And I kind of reach over to Colin and go, "Hey, Colin, how do I do this, man?" And he goes, he says, I'll never forget this. He says, "Oh, you put the bigger number." I was being stupid, okay? I was subtracting numbers upside down. Okay, I've admitted it. And he goes, but this is what he said. I've never forgotten it. He says, oh no, he says, just put the bigger number on the top. He says, it'll make it easier on yourself. Brilliant, tutoring. Not judging, not laughing, not mocking, not ignoring, right? Not writing me off as a complete and utter failure, but hey, just here's a trick. So I'm a soccer coach, and so I'm a writing teacher. And I believe I can teach anybody to write, and I believe I can teach anybody to play soccer, no matter what. But it's tricks. It's tricks. You got to break it down. You got to explain it. When I started coaching, I was a very good soccer player. I still am. No, I still am. No, I'm still playing with 18-year-olds. But I never coached. And so I said to these kids, right, take the ball here, just knock it 40 yards over there, put it on his chest. And none of the kids could do it. And I'm like, what's wrong? It's easy. Look, bang, bang, did it. And they're all hitting birds and trees and parked cars. And then I'm like, how do I explain this? And so then I had to go back and learn the mechanics. I had to watch myself as I was doing it so I could break it down into stages. Okay, first you run up. You lean back a little bit. You keep your eye on the ball. I'd say your brain is smarter than you are. Your eyes will do the measurement. Little tricks. And tutoring is a way, because none of us are very comfortable putting their hand up in a big gathering and asking a question, especially if you don't know something. And so ways in which tutoring can supplement the learning that's going on by providing those tricks or those little kind of hints or these little clues that will help to really build your educational toolbox. That's all you're doing, right? I mean, you teach somebody to read. I used to do this the first day of my class in English 102, which was supposedly like you'd arrive, the research paper. And I'd say, all right, okay, welcome to this my English 102. I'm Seamus. I'm going to teach you all how to read. And they'd all go, oh, this guy's an idiot. What's he doing? Teach me to read. I don't know how to read. I'm in here. I'm like, here's how professionals read. All right, flip your book open. Open to the index. What's the word you're looking for? Okay, is it in there? No? Need another book. Is it in there? Yeah. Go there first. In other words, there's strategies. You read the introduction, you read the conclusion, you read the beginning of the... There's ways to organize something as basic as reading, right? It's a trick. If you want to transition from being an undergraduate to a graduate to getting a PhD, you got to learn these tricks. And that's tutoring. And those things happen one-on-one. Coaching used to be like, many of you, you've all played some level of sport, right? Right? I'm assuming you've all done something, or you know what a coach looks like, right? Baseball hat, whistle, screaming a lot, everybody standing, being yelled at. That's all changed now. Now the coaching is in the game. And now the coaching is, I'm standing beside a kid playing the game. I go, hey, Johnny, come here. Remember when you get your head up, open your body a little bit, and then you can see. You get it? See? All right, okay, hey, back to Johnny. Johnny, start from Johnny's touch. Boom. Johnny opens it. Right, he's taught. That's a trick. That's tutoring. That's coaching. So, yeah. Good stuff. Don't stop doing it. Thank you for doing it, because sometimes it can be thankless.
Hello, my name is Tracy Engstrom. I'm the coordinator of career development here on campus, so
Hi.
I help transition students, CTHE students, into their career. We hear so often about the soft skills gap and
Yep.
what not necessarily our students, but new employees in general are lacking. And so a large part of my job is providing that soft skills training. Even in this area, it's so heavily needed. How would you support, or what ideas would you have to, in addition to the academic career they're getting here, help train those students to be successful?
Yeah, this question was asked this morning. We used to do this in the classroom by having like really strict attendance policies, and you had to be on time, and we thought this will teach them how to prepare in the workplace. But part of that sort of soft skill gap in this culture right now, the not showing up for time and not passing a drug test is what you will hear sort of generally, right? Or not showing up at all, like literally not showing up. Some of it is just a lack of basic understanding of communication and civil engagement, and a lot of it has to do with the way in which we were all brought up or taught. I'm not blaming anybody here, okay? I always held the door for all of my kids going in the house. Ergo, all of my kids hold the door, right? We banned cell phones, turned off the TV at dinner time. If I want to call my kid, he's watching. He will not answer the cell phone if he's at work, because he's at work, right? So we did a little experiment at Parkland where we had this civility week, and we all volunteered, and we all stood around there's 129 entrances to Parkland. We all stood around at the doors, and we opened the door for every single person that went through. And what we saw then was students starting to do that, holding the door. I walk down the hallway. Every time I walk down the hallway, I say hello to everybody I meet. I always say hello to African-American males because I know that often people don't look at them. I always make eye contact and I say, hey, how you doing? 100% response, 100%, thank you, sir, good morning, how are you? Incredibly polite, incredibly engaged and friendly. So it's not that students can't do it. It's just that we have to explain to them that this is part of the requirement. It's part of the culture. And it's not a judgment, because kids want to be cool. You know, I coach teenagers. I mean, man, what's up? You know, they want to be cool. They don't want to be, but they're also incredibly delicate human beings, and they want to be loved, and they want to be respected, and they want to be cared for, because they are very fragile. And it's okay. I can joke around with them and say, hey, I say hello to you. You got to say hello back. You know, so I think that's part of it. So a lot of it's going to happen in the classroom, I think. And some of it has to be just straight up honest. You know, honest. I mean, hey, here, Johnny, let's talk. You don't have a great affect when you come see me. You know, when we meet, You're kind of looking at your phone. You're kind of looking at the window. What do you think that conveys? Have that conversation honestly with people. Because I think somehow we sometimes feel these things will magically happen by osmosis or something, and I think you have to be direct. I will say that in general, adults are as bad as teenagers on the cell phones, by far, especially in meetings that I'm running. Tremendous, oh my gosh, what? I just felt something buzz. Hang on a second, boss, let me just, oh my, put it away. But so I think you have to be intentional. And I think also on the employer side as well, there's an onus of responsibility as well, because a lot of sort of organizations don't think about it. They think it's a given, and they complain. And everybody gets amnesia. Any of you got teenage kids? You never were like that, right? Ever. Or moms that drive you nuts, have daughters that drive you nuts. Never happened to you, right? Yeah. So does that get, yeah. Good work, though. I mean, that's those in one-on-one conversations are huge, communication.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
My name is Anthony Law. I'm the coordinator of diversity and also an admissions recruiter here at Sandburg College.
Very good.
And you touched on something that I want to say I appreciate the understanding. And as I'm the coordinator of diversity, I'm asking, as the president, what would be your commitment to the celebration of diversity and more importantly, the inclusion of those that identify as underrepresented? And what's your expectation from your administration, your faculty and staff as well?
Thank you very much for that question. So I guess my take on diversity is that it makes us all better. And I'm a better person because of the experiences that I've had. I'm going to mention soccer. I apologize. My staff have banned me from talking about soccer because I always use, here's an analogy from soccer. But it's a good one because I played soccer with people all over the world, from all over the world, and often with no common language. And I have learned a ton from that interaction. Diversity makes us all richer. The more experiences we have of other people who are not like us, the more fulfilled we are, the greater we are, the stronger we are, because we have a diverse set of opinions. I grew up in a country that was about as monocultural as you can get. It was like, I mean, I could count on one hand the people who were not white Irish people. By white, I mean like sparkling white, like bright white. I mean, when I remember when the Barrys came from Pakistan, and in Ireland it gets dark at midnight in the summer, and the sun comes up at 4 o'clock. And so we're up. Zafar was a cool cat, and we were up in his house watching. What was that Rambo movie? Some stupid Sylvester Stallone movie, and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning or something stupid. And next thing, all the doors in the house started opening. And I'm going, like, what's going on? And all these old women started coming out. I'm like, Zafar, what's happening? And so, it's my grandma. She's getting up to cook because they were fasting. And you had to eat, right, between sunrise and sun. Well, there wasn't an awful lot of window of opportunity. So that was an incredibly interesting opportunity for me. To be intentional about that means to focus on the community that you're working within. What is the diversity that is within your community? What are the ways in which and you can have diversity in lots of, because I'm Irish, right? So please don't call me English or Welsh, right? You might think that's not important to me, but identity, learning about each other, learning about what our rich tapestry of experiences, and then broadening that into the larger community. You have a large Congolese population, you have a growing Latino population. I played on the Congolese soccer team. Man, those cats are crazy. Those guys would fight over an empty box at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they did. But I love them. I have a couple of Congolese kids on my team right now. Learning about their culture, what they went through. We spent some time in Belgium and understanding exactly what that meant for them and talking to them about it. These kids are all refugees. But I'm on a soccer team with all of this diversity. 2 kids from South Africa, Hispanic kids, kids from the Congo. We're all getting better. And we're not just educating each other, we're educating the parents. Right? Because I'm from a very diverse community where I'm at. And I want to be a person who is not trying to say I need one of each, but I want everybody to be engaged in understanding the richness and wealth of the diversity of the human world. Okay, so the international experiences, bringing international students, celebrating those diverse differences. Like, we all come from the same place, and sometimes we forget that. But it makes us a better, more collaborative, more engaged, more successful organization. I remember when there were no women in my classes. At ICC, 36 students in my class, I would have 5 or 6 women in my class. And I was very interested to make sure that the women spoke, because frankly, they had much more interesting things to say. And I had some powerful experiences when I empowered the women in those classes to take on some not so clever viewpoints. And that was a really good moment for everybody, because those kids who were being disruptive at the end of the year were able to come up and say to me, "Thank you for doing that. I'm a better person because I heard a different point of view." And God knows we need a little bit more of that. So embracing that within the community and trying to be as, as connected to the diversity of the world that we can. I think it's good. You get a better insight. And I think it's an everyday thing. I mean, I think we all need to be continuously sort of learning and experimenting and thinking about things. So, good. Thank you for asking that question. I really appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Claire Ehrlich. I'm the coordinator of library instruction.
Yay, library.
How important are college libraries in supporting student success? And what are ways that libraries can continue to fill that role and can improve on filling that role in the future?
Yay, libraries. So we have a sad situation where I think the statistic yesterday was 24% of the adults in America hadn't read a book last year. Sorry, 24% had read a book, right? But I read all the books in my town library in the children's section. I got a special dispensation when I was 9 to go into the adult section, so that but the librarian had to check out everything I brought out. I got sent back loads of times, because some of those covers look so interesting. So the world has changed. You got less books in your library, and you got more access to digital resources. We need to train people to be culturally literate, and also train people to be literate in terms of digital literacy. We need to teach people to understand that there are more points of view, and libraries are the best way to do it. We have more resources available digitally now than we've had at any time in the history of the world. We have more access to diverse bodies of work than we've ever had. Used to be you had to go to Alexandria, or you had to go to Oxford, or you had to go to Salamanca, or you had to go to Paris in order to get knowledge, because knowledge was stored in libraries. And now knowledge is everywhere. But libraries now have become the portal for every student and every person in the community to do it. And it's also one of the first points of connection for our community. It's a way for us to bring community into our space, and also to then sort of cultivate that appreciation and connection with the college. I think the libraries, especially in Illinois, on the Carly system, have done a very good job of being very economical and prudent with the way before anybody else in terms of sharing the resources, which was a long-term sort of book loan scheme. But I think you guys are in good position to do it. I think it's an educational piece. I mean, I used to bring classes to the library and do some kind of cultural studies thing, because a lot of times students wouldn't go to the library. And so that's good. It's good for them to know that they can go in there and do things. And so it's also a great space where other types of learning can go on, and where you can sort of do displays about various different weeks, whatever week it is, or whatever month it is, or celebrate sort of diversity, celebrate local authors, celebrate oral history. I mean, you're named after a poet, all right? I mean, you want to celebrate that huge literature connection, and also sort of that oral history. This is a very interesting state. It's a very interesting part of it. We have veterans from World War II who are almost no longer with us. I mean, there's an opportunity we have a responsibility to cultivate and capture those stories that they have, as well as the other folks who are, older than us. Like this college was founded in '66. We need to make sure that we have captured the voices and the stories of the people who've gone through our institution. Yeah, so good. Yay, Libraries.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Mike Bailey. I'm the athletic director, amongst other things, at Carl Sandburg.
You just added soccer. I'm very proud.
From listening to you talk so far this morning, just want to know, did Ireland qualify for the World Cup?
No,
There's
we
a
didn't.
soccer tournament called the World Cup?
Yeah. U.S. didn't qualify either. Or Italy or Holland.
Exactly. Sir, I apologize.
No, you're fine. That's fine.
What is the role of athletics at the college level, in your opinion?
Well, I'm biased. I was a soccer coach at the college. Athletics play a huge role. In one way, in many cases, our most successful stories academically, because our student athletes tend to perform well. They do perform at a higher level than our other students, and partly that's because I think they have that built-in success coaching that's built into a lot of what's going. Not to mention you can make them run laps if they don't go to class, which was I used a lot of peer pressure with my teams because we had a team competition for GPA every year, and so that was very, very important. It's an incredibly important and a great opportunity to diversify the student population. I did more education driving a 15-passenger van back from soccer games with kids from small, tiny, rural areas of Illinois, sitting beside a kid who was on the last plane out of Sarajevo. Or the kid who made a disparaging remark about people who didn't look like him. And when I pulled him up on it, I said, man, you can't say that. Emerson's sitting right beside you. And he goes, well, Emerson isn't black. Yeah, no, he is, in fact. So great learning, teachable opportunity to talk to a kid about what it meant to navigate race, because he'd never experienced it, literally never experienced it. So I, as a teacher, as a professor, and as a coach, I found it an incredibly rich environment. Aside from the school sort of spirit and character and being proud, and I saw your volleyball team last year, and I watched the video, and that's fantastic. It's a great testament to the work you do here. But our students are going to be successful there, and I think it's very important for a way for all of our students to connect to the things that are going on, to be proud of their school. But I also think it's an incredible opportunity to educate. Hi, good morning.
My name's Lindsay. I am a recruiter here at the college.
Very good.
And I have a two-part question. How do you plan to involve yourself in the every day-to-day activities of the college, and how do you see yourself involved with new students and incoming student activities at the college?
You know, everybody can learn. So I'm a big walk around kind of person, right? I like to walk around. I like to talk to people. I know everybody at the school. And somebody said to me, you know, that's not a very good philosophy. And I'm like, why not? I found out lots of things. I'm like, yeah, but you only, you find out the people who are willing to talk to you. And I'm like, I never thought about that before. That makes sense. The person who collars you and wants to give you a piece of their mind, right? But I still believe in that visibility. I still believe you need to be a very visible person on campus. And I would do it in various different ways. I would be very available to everybody in the college, especially in the very first part, right? You got a big transition. You got a person who's been here a long time, who's been in the college for a long time, who's very well respected, is very familiar, and you're going to have a brand new face. So I would facilitate lots of ways where I would meet with faculty groups and staff groups and department groups and individual departments in ways in which I could sort of learn, basically listen. and find out what's the pressure point, what's going on, what's difficult about your job as a recruiter, what's easy, what's hard, what do you not have in resources, what do you wish you had, what are other places, what's your professional development, what training do you have? I mean, all of the things that you can convey to me. Clearly then I need to be very, very visible for the whole community outside of the college as well. So that's part of what I would do. And the second part, I lost the thread, sorry.
Just how you would be involved with
New students. Yeah, so, sorry, I beg your pardon.
just incoming student activities at the college.
I do a welcome for all the international students on campus every year, and that's a way for me to sort of engage with students. I believe when students come, they all come, right? It drives me crazy, you know, like they all come, and I say to all of my colleagues on day one, I'm like, they're all here. They're here, okay? They made it up. The ones who we didn't think would get up, they're here. 7:30 in the morning, first day of class, they're ready to go. It's our job to keep them. So I think that welcoming, you know, you can't make a second first impression. So whatever your first impression is going to be the one that sticks with you. And, you know, I'm a regular guy, so I have no problem, you know, being there for students and talking to students and helping orient students and sort of walking them around on that first day to make sure they know where they're going, which is what we do. We literally bring students to the classroom they're going to. And that's real, though. It's not just a symbol, right? You know what I mean? It's like I would really want to do that and get to know the students and talk to them and be available to students. And I would do regular meetings where I would sit out in the college center and hang out so students could come up and chat to me about anything they wanted or be regularly open.
That concludes our time for the first open forum. And reminder, the next opportunity for an open forum today is at 2:30 in C102, and we'll also live stream that. And also, if you want to share feedback about Dr. Reilly, go to the Presidential Search web page, and there is a survey that you can click on. And Dr. Reilly, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.